Okay, I was just watching that little hand on the clock, but we're a few seconds early, but we'll start anyway. All right, I'll go ahead and call the Public Utility Advisory Board Executive Meeting for November 16th, 2023 to order. Before we do roll call, I would like to introduce our newest board member on the end down here, Brad Chance.
Hi.
Nice to have you here.
You say
And-
that now.
Well, I like to take a chance on people, so.
Take a chance.
That's right. And the jokes don't get any better. Also, like we did last time, when you talk on these mics, make sure you talk right into them. They went back and listened to a few of the recordings, and we look like a silent movie or something. So make sure you talk into the mic so they can pick that up. And hopefully, in a few meetings, we'll have a new system, so it may be a little bit more sensitive than that. With that, do roll call, please.
Brad Chance,
I'm here.
Michael Tackett,
Here.
Anthony Jeremita,
Here.
Steve McLuckie,
Here.
Sherry Tyndall, Les Boatright,
Here. Okay, and in your packet, you have the minutes of the October 19th meeting. Looking for a motion on those.
Move to approve.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion on them? Okay, you want to call a roll on that, please?
Brad Chance,
Yes or no?
Yes.
Michael Tackett,
Yes.
Anthony Jeremita,
Yes.
Steve McLuckie,
Yes.
Les Boatright,
Yes. So those have been approved. The first item we've got under reports is finance and admin and the utility reports from September of 2023. Anything out of the ordinary? No, bright green is on.
Okay, so now I'm on?
Yes.
Perfect. I thought it was that way, but it was already on. Anyway,
Did you swipe your credit card on it so it registers?
did not.
Cost cutting,
Okay, so this month we are reviewing the September 30th financial statements, the end of our first quarter of the fiscal year. 25% of the year is kind of our measuring point. Basically, as I reviewed these, everything was in the same condition as it was last year. Revenues were looking good. Expenses were not really concerning in any particular area for any division. And I'll just go over some of the things that stuck out to me. Power and light, miscellaneous revenue is still way over budget, mainly due to the things we talked about last month, the storm support for other communities, that sort of thing, and some fiber lines. Water supplies is showing at 73%, but that is related to encumbrances for inventory that are already showing up in the expense line item. And then sanitary sewer is pretty much really right on. Again, didn't see anything else that stood out to me. Like I said, most was almost the exact same status as last month. So don't know if anybody else has questions.
I have a couple of just more comments than anything. You mentioned before the meeting about it's audit time. Could you kind of
The
explain
audit
that?
has been in process. We typically begin the audit process towards the middle to the end of July.
And that's an internal audit.
No, that's our external financial
Okay.
statement audit. And that usually wraps up sometime mid to late December. So we are trying to wrap that process up. And we should hopefully have final financials at least by the beginning of January for the fiscal year of 23. So June 30th, 2023. The audited financials should be published by the end of December.
Okay, because also, I know our budget year is what, July to June?
Correct.
But it takes a while to get the final numbers in. Are you looking at like November to close out?
So what happens between the financials that you guys were presented for the June 30th financials? There are what we call audit entries related to pensions, other post-employment benefits, things that are required from a financial reporting standpoint to make government-wide financial statements basically look the same as the business-type financials. So there's a lot of entries, a lot of review, obviously, that we go through at year end to make sure that everything was recorded properly throughout the year, that there's no reclassification that needs to be done, something didn't get coded into the wrong line item. So all that review happens. Our external auditors come in, review our processes, procedures, numbers, and then once they've completed that review, issue their final audit report. So journal entries are made, some just for financial reporting purposes, and some correcting entries that get made during that process.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions? Somebody up here? All right, well, thank you.
No problem, thank you.
Okay, nothing from municipal services. Okay, IPL, got a couple things on here.
Yes, sir. First on the list there, the update on the 2 IPL studies. If anyone did not watch the study session last week or the council meetings leading up to that, the original plan to produce 2 completely separate studies, when that was presented to council, looking at the quality of one of the consultants in particular, and very impressive, DKMT Consulting. Council asked if we could reconsider and ask DKMT to provide a quote to do all of it rather than 2 separate ones. They did note that there is some overlap in the data collection and something like the interview process and all that, no reason to pay 2 consultants to do the same thing twice. So wherever we could combine that effort, council was concerned about still having 2 independent reports, one for the long-term cost of ownership and one for what would be the impact of a potential sale. We went back to DKMT. They did submit a very detailed proposal. That was presented at the study session Monday night. The total cost is $459,683. The combined for the 2 separate was about $518,000, so save a little bit. And they gave a timeline that has the whole process being wrapped up by the end of July to actually do a lot of the data research, talk to various stakeholders, PUAB, City Council, the community, staff, and then put their report together and have that out by July. Their full proposal is attached to the study session agenda, and it's also on next Monday night's council agenda, so you certainly could download that and take a look. But it's very thorough. They've outlined exactly what their process would be, all the different things that they would look at, and some of the analysis that would be done, and then the reports that they would generate for the city.
Now, DMKT did a report in 2020.
Yes, we engaged them to do pretty much a top-to-bottom analysis of our operating methods, our administrative organization, and to give us some recommendations on ways that we could improve the efficiency and the organization of the company. They did an initial survey and they came out with a report that said what areas they would look at. And at that time, council at that time chose not to go forward with that. So we didn't actually get a list of recommendations. We got a list of like areas of concern. But they were very, very professional in in their work last time, and all the staff that were engaged with them were suitably impressed. So we're looking
taking-
forward to working with them.
The studies that they're getting ready to do are a lot more in-depth than the 2020.
It's different. There, we were looking at administrative organization, efficiencies, how we do business, and what kind of things could we tweak. Were we collecting all of our data correctly and putting it for, one of the big issues we had 3 years ago was our FERC accounting. We lost out on some of the transmission revenue we could have gotten because our record keeping wasn't up to snuff. And so that was one of the particular areas we were looking at then. These two studies, the first one is a cost-benefit analysis of having a municipal utility. What is that worth? And what would be the impact to the city and the ratepayers if they were to choose to sell? It's not a recommendation to sell. It's an analysis of what do we do with our existing contracts? What's going to be the impact on our power costs if we divorce ourselves from that process? What kind of things are going to have to be negotiated as part of a sale that would impact the city? What type of sale might we expect? Now, caution there, they do recommend that not be publicized, because any potential buyer, you're telling them what your bottom line is before you even start, and that doesn't put you in a good position. So some of that would be, they recommend some of those discussions be kept at like a closed executive session. But that's the first study. What do the numbers say? Does it look like selling or continuing to own, which would be the better impact on the city? The second study is looking at a long-term, like a 20-year look at what type of capital investments would we need, what type of power contracts would we need, what type of, council has asked that they look at the governance structure. There's been discussion, I know at the Charter Review about, we have the PUAB, Springfield has a board that actually runs or helps manage the utility, and there are other combinations out there that could be considered. Looking at, is it better for the city to own some of its own generation, or to get out of generation and just be a transmission and distribution company? Those kind of things, long-term, big picture, that's what that second study is for.
Okay. Any questions?
I do have a question about, last week, I know I got here late, but I was looking in the minutes, and you all talked about the contract actually including public presentations and public dialogue. Now, my understanding at the study session, the city manager made a comment that the company wasn't actually doing that, but they were going to put a third party together, a group of people to do that. And my concern with that is, it's like the company, I think that if people have questions, they may have questions that can only be answered by the company instead of, somebody that's not the company.
Sure.
That's my concern.
When this concept first came up and was discussed about doing these studies, one of the points that was made was that nobody out there trusts us. They don't trust, the public doesn't trust the council, they don't trust the staff, they don't trust our consultants. So one of the objectives was to get a professional public engagement team to come help direct that public engagement piece. And whichever consultants we selected would contribute to that, they would participate in that, but they're not going to be leading it. And DKMT, they've got, in this proposal, they have some hours allocated to public engagement. Anything additional that we would ask them to do, they've also given a rate of what, how many dollars it costs for a visit. And we would certainly reach out to them as needed for support on those.
So are they still going to have, are we going to be able to have enough presentations that, I know that's a while off, But again, I think it's something to start thinking about to make sure that we've got enough availability for different people, you know, enough, not just like one meeting for everybody to attend,
Right.
and then, you know, so.
Yeah, we will establish the scope of work for the public engagement piece separately. And certainly we understand the expectation of a extensive community dialogue. That's important as part of this. So that will definitely be planned, but it's not, that scope hasn't been developed yet. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
That is a good point to put out there to make sure that there are enough. I know like when the school district did their 4-day school week, it was gonna be, you know, public engagement, and they had one meeting to basically tell everybody, we're doing this. So it wasn't really the public engagement they were looking for.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, the city council and certainly you all as a board have made the expectations about that clear. Our city manager has made that clear that, you know, we need some robust community conversation about this matter, so we understand that.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'm thinking it's probably appropriate for this group to make a recommendation or for them either to, yeah, we approve of taking DMKT, doing both studies, and kind of what's the right word I'm trying to think of? I should have slept before this meeting, I think. We should do a vote of support for what they're trying to do. That's not what I'm trying to think the word of. I'll think of it in about 2 hours, but anyway, so, what does the group think?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Steve?
I will move that we support the direction the city council has requested and Mr. Nail has outlined, that being the two studies being done by
KT.
DKMT.
his children's initials, I know that.
I wrote it down right, but I can't say it, so. Is there a second on the motion? Okay, we have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
My only comment is, I understand DKMT's done good work for you all. I am still leery of having one company in charge of everything, you know, I mean, doing everything. And that's not a slight on them or anything, I don't mean to offend them or anything. I'm just leery of only one group pushing their opinion. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think a variety of opinions is always better, you know, to make a more informed decision.
I understand, but maybe this ease your concern a little bit. In our discussions with DKMT, one of the things we pointed out is we are not asking them for a recommendation. At one point, a council member said, we don't want you to make a recommendation. Later, he said, we want you to make a case. Well, go back to his first comment. What we want is for them to collect the data, analyze the data, and give us the numbers. Give us the facts.
Just raw data.
You know, it's going to cost you, you might get X amount, millions of dollars for the value of the asset. It's going to cost you this many millions of dollars to undo this contract. It's going to cost you this many millions of dollars for the outstanding bond debt that we hold. You know, in other examples around the country, there's been this much loss of reliability or this much increase in rates or decrease in rates. Give us the numbers. I think we are all smart enough to look at those numbers and say it's either a good deal or it's a bad deal. So we don't want them to sell us.
Okay.
We want them to do the analysis, do a deep dive into everything they can think of that is an impact, and give us that data. And then we will discuss that amongst ourselves, with you all, the council, and have the data to make the best decision for Independence.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I want to say that I had similar concerns, which is one reason I went to the study committee meeting. I was impressed with the presentation from DKMT. And I was also impressed that they have engaged, I'm going to get the word wrong, but they've engaged a third party whose sole job is to make sure there's not too much leakage in conversation, that there are two separate studies. They'll use the same base data, and these two separate studies, there will not be any conversation between the two. And I thought, for me, that solved that issue, and I feel comfortable.
Okay.
So we're just talking objective data as opposed to subjective data. In other words, they're gonna just give us, they're not gonna give us their opinion, they're gonna give us what the actual finding is.
Yes, sir. Plus, I mean, several of the members of this team have worked on municipalization projects or consulted with communities that were going the other direction, and so we'll also be getting the benefit of their experience and what they've seen.
Any other questions, comments? You know, I think when I look back at the way this process is kind of came about, I like that one company's doing it. It's the same really data set. And you know how it is with the weather. All the weather forecasters get the same data set, but this channel calls for 70 in sunshine, and this one calls for 50 in rain, and then it snows. So nobody gets it right, and they looked at the same data. So I think it's going to be good to get one company look at. I mean, they're familiar a little bit with us already from doing this 2020 study, but not so much that it's really going to taint what they're trying to do. So, any other comments? Okay, would you call for a vote on that, please?
Brad Chance,
Aye.
Michael Southgate,
Yes.
Anthony Jeremita,
Yes.
Steve McLuckie,
Aye.
Les Boatright,
Yes. So, good luck with that, and taking it to the council that we do approve of the way it's rolling out, so. And the PUAB will be here for any discussions with the consultants or anything that we can do, because we want to make sure that we have some input on it as we move forward.
Assuming that the contract purchase order is approved Monday night, we will immediately start reaching out to schedule the kickoff meetings and initial discussions.
Okay.
Second item on here was a question about the Grain Belt Express. There's been a lot of news recently about that coming, and the news article that came out talked about the multiple millions of dollars that it will save Missouri residents, and the question was, how much does that impact Independence? The shorter answer is it doesn't. The longer answer is the Grain Belt Express, in order to get approval to build it across North Missouri, one of the requirements that came out was that it had to benefit those communities that it passed through. So there will be some of the energy from the plains that's being taken across to Illinois, Indiana. They have to use some of that energy, or allow Missouri utilities to access some of that energy. That won't impact us directly. The bigger question is, what impact is that going to have on energy costs? If that helps to reduce average energy costs, then we'll benefit. But we're not going to be taking any energy directly off of that project.
Just want to clarify. So the MPUA, I thought I might forget those initials, so I got it here. Mr. Twitty, who we've visited with, talked about the savings for consumers in Missouri, but it's where the line is going through, that's where the direct savings will be. Do I understand that right?
Correct. That was part of the agreement in order to get the land acquisition and to approve the project to go
Yes.
through, was that it would benefit those communities. So the
Okay.
utilities that are there in those areas, which many of them are members of MPUA, so MPUA has been following it very closely. But again, it doesn't directly impact us, but there could be a benefit, a side benefit.
Could we purchase power from it if we chose to?
We purchase all of our power 100% from Southwest Power Pool.
Right. But help me with this. I don't think we just say to SP&P, we want that or this. We're trying to buy the cheapest power from SPP that's available at the time we need it. Is that correct?
SPP monitors continuously
Yes.
who's drawing how much, and at the end of the month, there's a settlement that says, okay, you used this much on this day, and the average price was this. You used this much on this day, the price is that.
Yep.
And they bundle all that up. We don't go in and selectively
No.
say, we want 30% from wind, and we want,
Right.
it's whatever SPP has that day, that's what we're purchasing.
The point I'm trying to get to, though, is if this wind power in Grain Belt is cheaper, and we go to SPP and say we want to buy, won't we be buying that if it's the cheaper at that moment? Cheapest alternative?
SPP is bundling all of the resources that they tap into.
Sure.
And then the average price of that. So if SPP, as that energy's coming across, because it comes through SPP.
Yep.
As it's coming across, if SPP is getting some of that share, then that certainly would be factored into our eventual cost. But
Yep.
but we don't go in and select which power. Capacity is the other side of that coin. We go out in search of capacity, which right now we have sufficient contracts. But if there's available capacity out there that is a good deal for Independence, we would certainly be looking at it.
Sure. Okay, thanks.
I have one quick one. Now, those Grain Belt Express, are they members of the SPP?
No, Greenbelt Express is the name they gave the pipe, the transmission line.
Right.
And it's going through the territory that's controlled by MISO, the Mid-American
Independent System
Independent
Operators.
System Operators, yes. All these acronyms.
I'm still working on DKMT, so just go on.
So the Grain Belt Express is a project that is separate from the regional entities.
Right, but, well, I guess what I'm saying is, if they're not members of SPP, it would make it impossible for us to get power from them,
Well,
wouldn't it?
the wind farms that this energy is coming from are within
Okay.
Southwest Power Pool.
Okay.
And certainly those generators have some, but part of this whole project was to try to help get energy across from where it's abundant in the Midwest, across to areas where they didn't have as much, so.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you. Deputy City Manager, anything else?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Now we're down to board member comments. I'd like to, again, welcome our newest member, Brad Chance. At some point, we'll want to get him set up with tours of all the operations, so those will be the folks that you'll talk to on that. It's impressive if you haven't been through some of that. I don't know what's your background, Brad?
It's not engineering,
Okay,
it's religion.
okay. Just pray for us then. Okay. But, you know, IPL, the water treatment, just everything we've got, it's pretty impressive what's in the portfolio. And, you know, if you've got any questions as you're going on the tours, just go ahead and try to stump your tour guide.
I look forward to doing it.
All right. One thing I wanted to mention, and then I'll turn it over. I saw an article, and I didn't go back and look for it. It was about municipals that are wanting to get out of their own operations, and they're looking at creating not-for-profit utilities through the state. Did anybody else see that article? I'll try to find it. And it was some of these cities are saying, we don't want to do our own utility anymore. We're going to turn it over to the state and let them run it for a not-for-profit. All kinds of red flags went up in my mind about, we're here from the state, trust us. I'll try to find that article. It was a pretty well-written article that just talked about what some cities are doing, because they're just tired of doing it themselves, and the hurdles they're running into. You know, they're saying, oh, well, they're gonna let the state do it. The state says they could do it as a not-for-profit. You know, I don't know what kind of fees are associated, but I'll find that article, and I'll get it to Christina so she can get it out to everybody. Anything else? Okay, well, I guess if nothing else, then we'll declare this meeting over. And we'll see everybody. The next meeting's on December 21st, right before Christmas. Thank you.